So let's talk about history, a very old one. In this episode of Persian's lifestyle, we're gonna see how did the Aryans come to Persia, what ways did they choose, what the others did, and also what are the proofs to that. So continue watching this video and you'll understand everything. Hello everybody, welcome to Persian Lifestyle. Well, actually I just saw a beetle, those ones that roll the shit around. I don't know the English name, but we call them gupel. Well, I just wanted to show you, but I lost it. Unfortunately, they have a shitty life. So let's get to our own points. Well, the Aryans movement. How was it? Well, as we know, Aryans used to live in the southern parts of Russia, right? And they were into some different parts, right? Well, as we know, they used to live between the lake Balkhash, that would be this, till the river Volga and a little beyond that. And we know that a part of them went to Europe, right? That we call European these days. Now the other part that stayed in Asia, the sun is very beautiful. The other part that stayed in Asia got divided into different parts, well, 3 parts to be precise, and they moved into different parts of Asia like Persia or India and stuff. Now those 3 parts, one of them was what we call Sakà. Actually Persians call them Sakà. It was the nickname that the first king Cyrus gave them, and it means warrior or powerful. They were a group. They used to live around the lake Balkhash, the northern and northeast part of Persia. And well, after some time they came into Persia and they started living in a spot called Sakistan in southeast of Persia. That means a land for Sakà, and these days we call that Sistan. Well, they were actually a very important group. They had many effects, many important effects on the politics and also the history of different nations. But well, this video is not about them. The second group were called hindo-aryans. They were a group that went to a place that these days we call India. Now the third group was called Persians. They used to live between the river Ural and river Volga, okay, that you can see in the picture, an area kind of like this. And then they came to Persia. But the question is, which way did they choose? There are 2 theories about that, okay. Well, the first theory says they chose a way on the western parts of Caspian Sea, and well, they came into Persia. The second theory says they chose a way on the eastern side of Caspian Sea. So which one's true? They have both some proofs for themselves. For example, the first theory says that in this way, from the western parts of Caspian Sea, western sides of Caspian Sea, the road would be shorter and easier, okay, so they would choose that. And also there are some landmarks and places named after Aryans names, okay, so how could the names come this way if they didn't choose this way? Well, it's kinda reasonable. Now the second theory has some more reliable proofs. There is a book called Avesta. It's a historical and also religious book, to be honest. It's from one of the first religions that came on earth, Zarathustra or Zoroaster, as English people call, or Zoroaster, a part called that like this too. Now, Avesta is a very good source for historians because it contains a lot about Persia's history. Now, in this book, it mentions some small kingdoms on the eastern sides of Persia and eastern side of Caspian Sea that the Persians, that group, passed and conquered, and it kind of mentions the names and says a little about them. So with this proof we can kind of be more sure about this way. I think the second theory is more true, you have your own ideas. Now that we know about the way, well, you know that Persians got divided again into three parts too, right? So one part just came to a region called Kharazm. Well, this would be here. And another part, for example, passed Kharazm and then went to the central part, north, and then a part like here that was called Hekmatane. Okay, and these days we call it Hamadan. It's a very, very beautiful touristic city in Persia that was the home to many, many famous poets and also scientists. Anyway, they lived there. You know, they passed Kharazm, then came to a place on the eastern side. We call this region Hirmand, at least in those times they used to call it like that. It's around the river with the same name. Then to the central parts of Persia, and then south. Now we know the names of these parts. They are pretty famous, right? Like Media, Parthia, and Persis. Okay, well, we call them actually differently. We say Mad, Part, and Pars. Now, what about these groups? Well, parts weren't so important. They just stayed there for some centuries, and after all those years they just popped up and said, well, we are here. You know, I remember exactly in the elementary school we were studying history, and we studied about the movement of Aryans into Persia and the three groups. Then we only studied about Media and Persis, and just after 1 year and a half we started studying again about the Parthia. Well, I say they weren't so important in a very significant amount of time, how to say, a very, very dedicated part of time. They were just there lazy. After that, they have Media mods that were a group. They stayed in Hekmatane, as I said, and they kind of created the first big kingdom in Persia. And after that, there were the Persis. Okay, Persises. We call them Pars, and we know that Cyrus, or as we call Kurosh, was one of them that started one of the greatest kingdoms of all time. But now we got to know about this way and stuff. Now, what about the names? Well, there are some cool things about that I'm really so excited about it. One of them, it says, well, when the Persians came to Persia, the Aryans came to Persia and became the Persians, well, they named this land something. In the ancient Persian language, they used to call it Aryana Vaja. Okay? I will talk about the meaning. Then in Middle Persian, they used to call it Eran Vej. Okay, and these days, well, we just say Iran. Okay, now what does it mean? Aryana or Eran in Middle Persian, they mean Aryan. Okay, simple. Now Vaja or veg, that well, has some different meanings, and also there are some different theories about the meanings of it. Again, well, it has two meanings. One of them means land, so we can just translate the land of Aryans, or Aryans' land. Now, the other theory, and better say the other meaning, is expansion, okay, or stretch, better to say. So, the other theory, now to continue, says that it doesn't mean Aryans' land, it means Aryans' expansion. So we say that Aryans had a territory before on the northern parts of Caspian Sea, between the rivers Ural and Volga. Then they came here and kind of expanded their territory. They didn't found a new land, they didn't start a new kingdom, they were just expanding their territory. Okay, well, these are two theories. I don't know which one is true and which one should I trust, because I know almost nothing about ancient Persian and Middle Persian. It's so hard that if you put And I mean, it's so different from the modern Persian that we use these days that if you put a text about ancient Persian, I would understand nothing. If you put me a text about Middle Persian, I would again understand nothing, because exactly everything is different. I mean, at least about the way of writing. Well, if you write it in a language that I can understand, like, I don't know, in English alphabets or in Persian alphabets or in Arabic alphabets, well, I may understand some things, but still, the point is, it's pretty hard and different from the modern Persian, so I'm not someone to judge the meanings and the theories. So I can't say which one is true. You have to decide for yourself. Theory 1, theory 2, which one? Aryans land or Aryans expansion? Anyway, just know that they called it like this: Aryana, Vaja, Middle Persian, Iran, which in modern Persian, Iran, or as I like it more, Sarzamin Pars, that means the Persia's land. Okay, or Persians land, better to say. So this video is finished. I hope it has been useful for you. Maybe next video would be about Zarathustra, Zoroaster, and Avesta, the book he brought with himself, one of the first religions of the earth, and one of the first, better to say, complete religions. I don't follow it myself, but well, it's so cool just to read about that, I assure you. So yeah, I would see you, I think, in the next couple of days. The sun is almost setting. I mean, it's almost set. I can't see it anymore. Happy Ramazan. I would see you next couple of days. Have fun, my friends.